good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you're watching this. Welcome back once again to the Since I Was Young podcast for all things Heart and Midlothian, joined by myself, Ewan, and Alan. We do hope you're good as always, and thank you for joining us as always. It's greatly appreciated. What a week it's been. There's been shape performances, last gasps win, torrential rain, trains cancelled, all that we love to hear in Scottish football as usual. So obviously, in today's episode, we will be talking about the very obvious, our advancement to the fifth round of the Scottish Cup, where we were victorious just against Spartans. As we record this on a Wednesday, it is less than 24 hours since we faced Dundee at home, which again, last gasp win. Can't even say that. Last gasp. There we go. Fucking hell. Win against Dundee, and we will be talking a bit about the headlines as well. Mostly transfers, like some ins, some outs as well, and some potential outings as well. With some news that has just came out today as we speak. So we will talk a bit about that, and obviously we will look ahead to the next home game, which is against Aberdeen. So we will do a wee preview about that. Then we will conclude the podcast as usual. So, as again, we do hope you enjoy. And if you haven't subscribed yet to the Since I Was Young podcast via our YouTube page, please think about subscribing. And if you want to get in contact with us via our usual socials as well, please feel free to do so. They will all be in the description and on screen as always. So we do hope you are having a pleasant when we put this out Thursday afternoon. So Alan, as I said at the start, the last two games, and as we've said for the last few months as well, a pretty bang average per performances for those two games in the Scottish Cup and in the league fixture against Dundee last night. As I said at the start, as we speak, as it was last night. As a whole, put it into perspective for us. I believe from the very knowledgeable Laurie Sire on the commentary last night, I believe that's now 6 games and it's 5 wins and 1 draw. I believe we're unbeaten this year as well, even though it's only been 3 games as well. So, happy with the results for the last week.
I think you have to be happy with results. Performances is a different story, but
Absolutely.
results, yeah. I mean, progression in a cup is always nice. Like I said, not long after the game, I posted a little TikTok basically just talking about it and how important it was to get through. So yeah, pleasing. As difficult as we made it. Yeah, and Dundee was quite a ride.
Absolutely, my man. Absolutely. Well, we can start with the obvious since it was the first game we played up against Spartans. Obviously, you're not to be like sort of very like big team like, but we were always going to be favourites going in to the tie. Obviously, you have to take into account that underdog sort of um confidence as such, where
Yeah.
most teams to cause an upset, especially against Hearts as well. Um, you know, um, throughout the first half in general, I don't think we were too bad. Like it feels weird saying that, like especially against third tier Spartans as well, but to their credit, I thought Spartans in general actually did all right. Like the game was always going to pan out like with us being mainly in the control. I would have thought is that their game plan would be to hold us back as much as they could, sitting deep, and try to create something on the counter when they got the chance. Obviously, set pieces as well would have been quite important for them to try and capitalize on that. But I think a good place as any would be to start. I'm sure you felt the same way. I felt the same way to see that glorious, glorious man in between the sticks as well. And made a few good saves as well. Obviously, none other than Craig Gordon. I believe it's what 392 days since his last appearance, obviously against Dundee United. Yeah, it was just great to see him back in between the sticks and wearing that captain's armband. Yeah,
Yeah, he's remarkable. He really is just a remarkable human.
yeah,
I'm delighted that he's back. Obviously, I mean, we spoke about this probably on the podcast where we talked about his injury and
mhm.
kind of said, that might well be him finished. So to see him back is amazing. Yeah, he's just a remarkable man, and yeah, it gave me quite a nice warm fuzzy feeling to see Gordon back in a Hearts lineup.
Of
He's
course.
just I think now he's maybe Hearts' oldest ever player. I think I'm not sure. I remember I saw a graphic after the game. I can't remember, but I think he's definitely up there
Yeah,
anyway. Um, and yeah, it's just remarkable, as I say, to see him back. The two sort of main talking points from Spartans were probably at both ends of the pitch, with Gordon being in goal and the lack of a certain number 9 up front who was
mm.
ill. Despite the multiple conspiracy theories, he was in fact ill.
Yeah,
Some of the some of the things that I saw were just absolutely horrendous. Yeah, so Shanklin was rested due to being ill. The medical team apparently said he should stay well away, just to not spread it.
mm.
But yeah, as I say, between Gordon and goal and no Shankland up front, it was quite an interesting an interesting game. But yeah, like you said, I have to give Spartans some credit.
Mm.
I think I messaged you, or maybe it was somebody else, and then it was attack versus defense, but our attack was just nothing. There was just they didn't have anything going for them because of how well Spartans defended, to their credit. But yeah, I think it's funny. Like, obviously, not having Shankland up front, people kind of said, this is a big challenge. It's a big test for Tagawa. We played, I think the front three off the top of my head was Tagawa, Oda, and Forrest. I think it was maybe.
Was it not
Uh,
Vargas? No.
Vargas.
Yeah.
It was Vargas. You're right. Aye, Forrest was playing, but he was further back. Um, but yeah, it was a big test for the forwards because obviously not having Shankland put a lot of headlines onto them and saying, oh, this is what a Hearts team could look like if Shankland's not in it. And it was very, very blunt, shall we say. But yeah, the point is, I think, a lot of people, myself included, were very critical of how we played and how we attacked. And I don't think we were very good at all. But I kind of, having watched it back, kind of thought, you know what, Spartans actually defended very well. Like
Yeah.
we made it quite easy for them to defend because we just kept trying to do the same things, and Tagawa just kept running away from the ball, which is another story for another day. But yeah, the Spartans' defense. I'm not saying we made it easy, but I think we certainly could have tested them a lot more than we did. And their goalkeeper as well, who, despite looking about 40, was apparently only 28 years old.
Really?
Put in, yeah, yeah,
Hi.
put in oh, unbelievable. I know, it's mad. I didn't realize, and it was somebody
We're
that
not here
messaged me
to judge.
actually.
It's fine.
Oh, absolutely not. I know I look about 12. It's fine. But like, yeah, somebody had messaged me saying he's only 28. I'm like, nah, surely not. He looks about like a 40-year-old. But
It does, huh?
um, he's a jambo as well. Their
Oh, fantastic
goalkeeper, a
value.
lifetime Hearts fan. So would have been a big thing for him to play against Hearts.
Yeah, for sure.
If he'd kept a clean sheet, then they would have been going through. But
Mm.
very, very good performance from Spartans, and not so good from us, I have to say.
Yeah, I know. I mean, just to talk about a bit of the goals as well. You like, yeah, obviously again, too much to credit to Spartans. I thought Vargas did reasonably well to slot away the header. As you said, there wasn't a huge amount of chances in terms of our perspective, in terms of being that dominant side. Um, to go back to what you said, I think we in some ways probably caused our own problems as well. Again, just to
Yeah,
not be critical enough, trying to be a bit more aggressive on the ball. I'm sure that Naismith said, well, like I would like to think he said to actually try and be the same aggressive team that we've been throughout this last few months. But you still like watching the game. You can tell that some of the players were thinking, "Oh, like this will be a walk into like into the park and not show enough of that the determination just to put the game to bed." Like
Yeah.
but again to say again to much of Spartan's credit, their goal absolutely fantastic. You cannot take that away from them, and I think they could probably walk away with their heads held high after that game. Like, they didn't, like, in that turn as well, they didn't make it any easier for us as well. And to slot a goal like that away, uh, absolutely
Oh,
fantastic.
oh yeah, yeah. I think something I just didn't actually mention that I meant to. We speculated last week about what the team selection for Hearts would look like. We thought maybe there might be some youth thrown in, but there wasn't really that. We didn't really do much of that. We put in the young lad Wilson off the bench when they finally realised that Tagawa was just invisible. But yeah, I mean, listen, I'm not going to blame Tagawa. I think there were multiple reasons why he didn't have a great game. The service to him in particular was average at best. I don't think Oda had his best game either. But
No.
yeah, we expected maybe a little bit more youth to be used, but it was more sort of fringe players like George Grant. Obviously got a run out. Tagawa played up front. Oda as well, who's not really been starting. He played off the start in the game. So the team was strong enough to win the game, and I think that's what annoyed me more than anything else. I think how hard we made it for ourselves. Like if it was a group of young players plus Craig Gordon and goal and maybe a settled defence and we'd scrambled to a 2-1 win, I might have gone, well, do you
Yeah.
know what? It's a good experience for the young players. But the sort of fringe players didn't really do enough to show me that, like we could rely on a Tagawa if something were to happen with Shankland, if he was to pick up another illness, for example. Um, so yeah, it was a little bit concerning in that front, but yeah, the goals like Vargas's header. I mean, it's quite funny. I watched it back just earlier on today, and like I think Halkett's behind him, and Halkett, if Vargas doesn't get there, Halkett's scoring because Halkett's literally right behind him, and the look on Halkett's face when Vargas gets up and wins the header, he's almost surprised that this
Yeah.
little 5 foot nothing Costa Rican winger has jumped him and put the ball in the net, but. Yeah, the Spartans' goal came at a time when they deserved it.
Yeah.
They made it. They became like it became a big scrap, and it just became one of those games that could have went either way, even at 1-0. I would have loved for us to put the foot down and go and get another goal, but I think if we'd done that, then we would have been out of sight. But it just the longer it was 1-0, you're looking at it going, this is not
Yeah.
over. This is not done. And Spartans had a few set pieces, a few corners before the goal that they looked a little bit threatening from. And then obviously the curse of Hearts being unable to defend from corners. We've not seen it for a while.
Yeah. No, true.
But the cross comes in and it's a cracking hit. I know there was an offside in the build up to it, and it was offside. But obviously due to Ainsley Park being the size that it is and Spartans being at the level they're at, there's no VAR, so you can't rely on that. But the fourth official completely missed it because he was about a yard offside, but that's life. So yeah, no, like I say, the game became more of a scrap than I would have liked it to have been, but I could totally understand why. Um, One thing watching the game back that frustrated me more than anything else was the amount of passes that we were playing and we were overhitting them. And I don't know if it was just the surface, but Frankie Kent in particular was passing it forward through the midfield, looking for the wingers, and he just put too much pace on every single pass, and it just skipped off the surface and went out. And I know it's an artificial pitch and all the rest of it, but you'd think after a couple, he's thinking, right, I need to maybe take a little bit off. But he did it all day. Like the passing out from the back was horrendous, and it wasn't just Frankie; it was everybody. Obviously, clearly not suited to playing on that pitch, but it all kind of adds up as to why Spartans didn't want to move the game to like an Easter Road, for example,
Makes
because
sense.
obviously that surface they play on it every week, so it's familiar to them. It's not familiar for us. But yeah, it was very much a scrap and very much about an hour of football that I did not enjoy.
You and me both, sir. But I'm sure you can agree that he did redeem himself in some fashion. With a first goal for Frankie Kent as well. like a good header
Yeah,
to get it in the back in the net as well. And yeah, that then if I think it was what the 87th minute as well. So again,
near
can't
enough.
complain
Yeah,
as well. Good to put the game to bed as well, and advancing
yeah,
him to the fifth round of the Scottish Cup, where we are away to Airdrie, where a lot of folk like before our time as well start to get some PTSD as well from um um Rubber back I was a fixture as well, but we won't go into that too much, maybe because we don't want to bring out the bad omens in that as well. But yeah, are you happy with the draw like as well, Alan?
yeah, yeah. Again, I did a reaction to it again on TikTok, just because I was bored and wanted to do something. When the draw was made, and
Mm.
yeah, I said it over there that I didn't think it was the hardest draw we could have got, but
No.
certainly not the easiest draw. Airdrie are on a little bit of good form at the moment. They've got a really settled team and a good manager there, so it's not going to be an easy game. Um, I said again that I wanted a home draw, but then looking back at it and going, well, looking at how our home form's been this season, maybe being away from home is actually not bad.
True.
Um, but yeah, no, Airdrie, I think they're currently fourth in the championship, or they were at least the last time I looked at it. So definitely not a side to take lightly. And I
No.
think, if we've learned nothing from the Spartans game, or if we've learned something from the Spartans game, it should be that, you know, don't take these things lightly, because you can be upset. Like, we've
Mm.
been on the receiving end of it before. Certain results I won't mention because you talk about PTSD, I still have Brora shaped nightmares.
Exactly. Yeah.
Um, so I won't talk about a cup upset, but it'll be a difficult game. Airdrie will be up for it. Obviously, they beat St Johnstone. They beat Craig Levine's St Johnstone to get to the next round. So they'll certainly be up for a game against Hearts, to see what they can do in that one. But yeah, look, getting through to the next round after putting Spartans out, eventually, albeit last minute or whenever it was nice. And I know, like, people say, oh, you want the romance of an underdog winning and a giant killing, and obviously all the neutral fans that aren't Heart supporters would have wanted that.
Yeah, of course.
Um, because obviously, if I'm a neutral and I'm watching that game, I want an underdog to win, because it's the story of it. But yeah, I think for all the sort of disappointments of the Spartans game, I think there were a lot of positives that we could take as well. One man that I'll mention more so for his game against Dundee, but Dexter came off the bench against Spartans and looked very, very good.
Mm-hmm.
Against Spartans, looked direct and just caused a lot of problems for Spartans in the time he was on the pitch. So that was nice to see, and obviously it carried on against Dundee as well. But obviously we'll go into that in a little bit. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I want us to go on a cup run this season. Every fan should want Hearts to go on a cup run, and it would be nice to try and get another trip to Hampden booked in. But yeah, Airdrie, there's easier teams we could have got. Put it that way.
Fair enough, man. Fair enough. Well, as you mentioned there, we'll move swiftly on to the game last night, which ended in a dramatic fashion of a 3-2 victory over Dundee. Horrible conditions, shite football, and more of an entertaining game. Like I would want that as well. Obviously we'll start with the first half as well, and the starting lineup. Again, much as we would expect. Clark returned back in goal. Kent, Halkett, Kingsley, Dexter, because I'm not even going to butcher that name anymore. Cochrane as well. Hoff, Denham, Benny, Vargas, and Shanks back from his illness as well. Um, so yeah, again, one of the worst first halves I've ever seen. Like like in that game. Obviously, as you mentioned as well, the conditions didn't help as well. Obviously with us being both based in Edinburgh as well, we could see and feel how strong the winds are. The rain coming on as well didn't exactly help. Obviously, there was talk as well from the day before that the game could have been cancelled as well, like due to like your fans not making it through from Dundee side as well. You know, flights being cancelled, like etc. So, but the game did go ahead. Yeah, pretty shite first half. So no,
Aye.
no,
I don't think we knew. I don't think we knew we were playing for the first 45 minutes. I think we
no.
thought that the game had been cancelled in the first 45 minutes. Um, you rattled off the starting 11, and when I looked at it, there were a couple of things that were quite concerning. Predominantly the fact that we only really played two attack-minded players in Vargas and Shankland in a squad of 11 at home against Dundee, which I kind of thought it's not great. The midfield was, I wasn't quite sure how it was going to set up, and I didn't want to judge it until I actually saw it. But the balance of Benny, Denham, and Neuenhoff just seemed a little bit off for me. But the biggest thing that Dundee took advantage of was our back three and our, well, back five, if you want to call it that. Both of their goals came from disappointing, errors on our side of things. Easy to defend against, and we just let them have them. The the first goal was the McGee strike, obviously ex Hearts man Jordan McGee. Brilliant finish,
Want to add that,
absolutely
yeah,
brilliant
no, no,
finish.
no, no,
But
no, it was a good finish. I think in all aspects of the all five goals, I think they were all good. To be fair,
yeah, yeah, no, definitely. But I think the build up to their first goal was annoying because Cochrane was caught out and the Dundee boy was in behind him, and then he pulls it back, and then there's obviously the VAR check for offside. And I know a few people that were at the game. Obviously, I couldn't attend due to being at work, but a lot of people that were at the game said that the VAR check took far too long, which is not a surprise because they take forever every time anyway. And I genuinely thought when I looked back at the highlights, I thought he was offside, but it was very, very tight to be fair. But yeah, a good finish, but we just
100%.
we gave them so much space and time to do it. And that was kind of a big part of the first half. We just sat off them and just didn't. We were so slow to react to everything. And the second goal as well was similar. I don't want to dwell too much on them, but the second goal, Cochrane again involved. He plays a throw in, and then it comes back to him, and then he plays a pass across the pitch, clearly looking for Dexter, but Dexter's not aware, and the ball doesn't reach him anyway.
Mm.
And the Dundee boy just nips in and passes it through, and then Benny gets caught out as well. I don't think Benny had a particularly good game, to be honest. I thought he was very leggy, which you know people people have their own thoughts on Benny and what how he is and how he's been since he's come back from injury. But last night he was so far off it, which didn't help because obviously when you have an on form Benny, he's an asset. But last night he was very, very slow off the mark, and it just didn't. Something didn't quite look right, and I don't know if it's just been the break. Maybe he's had a bit of momentum before the break, and then obviously having a break and then having to come back in. It might have just been simply that. But yeah, the two goals were preventable, to be honest. And I think that's what annoys me more than anything else. It's back to conceding stupid easy goals, and I hate that. Like it really annoys me.
No, yeah, I mean, like we were talking like throughout that actual game as well. Of like I do agree that I thought the two goals were incredibly easy. Especially the second goal. I think this is probably the first time I've made a comment on Kent, but Kent should be doing more to get that ball. It's more as if it. You I could argue that it could have ended up as a 50-50 tackle, but Kent showed
Yeah,
no intent to go like sort of full in to actually try and get the ball. It was almost as if he was trying to pass it like sort of out of danger, but the Dundee boy gets in far too easily. And again, you have to give him credit, like as well. Like he hit it well to get it past Clark as well. And you know, personally, I think we deserved to be down 2-0 at that point. Obviously, And another thing that I want to mention as well. Now, this again also frustrates me with Vargas as well because, to quote yourself, there is a player there, but you know he can be very hot and cold at times. So obviously, after the first goal, we have a chance. Vargas manages to get in behind his man, 1-on-1. I know the goal, if he had scored, would have been disallowed because I'm pretty sure there was a foul in the build up on a Dundee player. However, you've got to do better than that. Just to say, like, even if there was a foul, but even then, though, he's got to put that away. You're 1-0 down. You've not started particularly well. Sky's all over the bar. Granted, I know he is still quite young, but still, you have to do better
Yeah,
than that. Regardless if it was a foul or not. So yeah.
yeah, definitely. I think it's one of those chances that you watch him go through one on one, and you're thinking, right, this guy's in confident form. He scored 3 goals in 3 games prior, 4 if you include the bounce game that we played during the break against Kilmarnock. And you just think, yeah, do you know what? Take your time and you'll put it away. But the Dundee goalkeeper Carson just kind of stands his ground and doesn't go one way or the other. And Vargas, I don't know what he's thinking, but he just puts his foot through it, and it just was always going over the bar. One of those chances, it was easier. It looked easier to score, but probably 1-on-1 in that situation, it might not have been as easy as it looked.
Hmm. But still, I mean, you would have to admit that he at least has to put it on a target, though.
Oh yeah, yeah, he definitely should be testing the goalkeeper rather than giving somebody in the Roseburn stand catching practice. But yeah, it,
Absolutely.
it was definitely one of those. But yeah, it was typical of that half. We just didn't do enough, and then obviously the players, well, the fans voiced their displeasure at halftime, as has become somewhat of a common thing at Tynecastle these days.
Of course.
Um, and yeah, look, there's occasions when I can back it, and maybe last night was one of those occasions because from what everybody I know that went to the game said was that the first half was absolutely horrendous. And I think when you as a fan, particularly like we spoke about the conditions and stuff,
Mhm.
you as a fan travel, pay your money to go and watch that, and you get served that first 45 minutes, it's only natural that you're not going to be entirely happy with it. And you're going to obviously voice your frustrations.
Absolutely.
Naismith described it as a toxic environment, which he also acknowledged the reasons why. He said, everybody was right, and he said the players understood that the first half wasn't good enough. So, it's nice to know that they were aware that they were pretty shite in the first half. um, because yeah, we could all see it.
Yeah, no, man, exactly. I mean, obviously we can both agree that the second half was much better. Two out of the three goals, first goals, for our latest Australian signing, Callum Nieuwenhof, very reminiscent, I would say, of the Cammy Devlin goal against the Rosenborg.
Yeah,
Very good finish, and they got us right back in to the game. Obviously, a lot of, oh well, we wouldn't say a lot of people, but some people have said that they just don't rate a Nieuwenhof yet. But I'm on the side of, I think you have to give him time. Like again, I think he has got something there. I mean, because I think he's. I mean, I might be wrong, but he's probably played more games than Cabby Devlin now. So they're obviously, obviously, I know he's still out injured as well, but he is starting to show his game as well, where like being that kind of the offensive minded and also being that attacking minded as well, in the
yeah,
same vein as well. But if it was a very good finish, and it did us enough to get back in to the game as well.
yeah. It was. I'm one of those people that's a little bit critical of Neuenhoff, but like at the same time, I'll never write a player off. When they've just got here, especially when they've come from the other side of the world. And I think people forget that Neuenhoff has only really had one good season
Mm.
prior to coming to us. Like last season was his breakout season in the A League, and we brought him to Hearts based off of that. So he's still a player that's got to develop and got to learn. But you know, right now he sort of sits in that category for me of a midfielder that I don't really know what he is. And I don't mean that in a negative way.
No,
I
no,
can't quite I can't quite pinpoint what his best things are, if that makes sense.
I get you.
Like he seems to be average at everything, which is not a bad thing.
Like a nice
But
all rounder. Yeah.
yeah. And I just think that, once he kind of sticks to one thing, be it going forward and helping for the forward, or be it doing the Benny, ball recovery and moving it forward kind of thing.
Mm.
If he works on one of those things and becomes very, very good at one of those things, then he's
Yeah.
probably going to get in the team every week.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was nice to see him score. It was a good goal. He took it well. I just enjoyed how he just absolutely sold the Dundee player, where we drop of the shoulder, turned round, and yeah, the shot was a bit of a what they used to call them. What did they used to call them? Well, I mean, they're grass cutters, but there was lots of other words for them.
I
And it
was
just
I was a daisy cutter.
aye, that's the one. Or one of those. One of those. Anyway,
A grass cutter. A
it
fucking
scuffed its
lawnmower.
I might as well be. Might as well be. I might have just coined that, mate. But
Possibly.
no, it scuffed along the floor, and obviously the conditions probably helped it
Hmm.
beat the goalkeeper. But it was a good
Hmm.
hit, and I'm happy for Neuenhoff because, as I say, he's kind of had a bit of a hit and miss start to his time at Hearts in terms of people not really getting him.
Hmm.
So hopefully that goal gives him a bit more confidence, and Naismith rates him very highly and says he's good in training, and he's a really interesting player. And Naismith seems to think, what, we need to give him time, need to
Yeah,
give him a break, and if that's what the manager's saying, then I'll back that, of course. And yeah, as I say, good moment for Callum to get a goal, good moment for Hearts to get a goal back into the game.
absolutely. And another person that will take massive confidence from this as well, and albeit being his home debut as well, our latest addition to the squad, which was Dexter. Um, Great header. And obviously we will mention your new golden boy, the impact sub, Forest as well. Again, I can't argue that he didn't play his part. He did fantastic.
Yeah,
Good assist, good cross in and to the box with it Dexter at the back post as well. Really good finish, and obviously he got man of the match last night as well, and very well deserved as well.
yeah, massive. The thing I think that changed the game was the halftime swap. He took Cochrane off, brought on George Grant at halftime, I think it was. Went to a back four and changed the system, and we looked a lot better. And I had a conversation earlier on Twitter about that in terms of, is a back four the way we should go at Tynecastle going forward? I think it may well be,
Mm.
because I don't like the back five at Tiny. There's something that just doesn't quite work with it. But we looked a lot more solid in the second half, and I think, like you say, Alan Forrest, my golden boy, Alan Forrest, love him, absolutely love him. Delighted that he's starting to prove himself every week to be an option and to be a reliable option, because he is. But yeah, Dexter did very, very well. Naismith again spoke about him after the game and said, he likes to get into the opposition box. He likes to make himself available for chances like that.
Mm.
And I mean, we've seen Natty Atkinson do it a few times, because it's clearly part of the role is to get forward and cut inside and be involved. And Natty's done it a few times, and Natty scored a few goals
Yeah,
as a result of being further forward. So yeah, if Dexter can come in while Natty's at the Asia Cup and keep the level of performances up like he showed against, as I said, his sub appearance against Spartans and then his performance against Dundee, he was very, very impressive. With the ball at his feet, the crosses into the box, it was just nice to see a player beating somebody and putting a cross in the box, because we don't see that often enough.
no,
From the players that we have. But yeah, Forrest was doing it all day or all night, as was Dexter. But yeah, the subs in general made a huge impact on the game.
absolutely, man. It was a terrific goal. And obviously we land on the pretty much the last piece of action. From a man as well that I still have faith in as well. Obviously, Oda came off the bench as well. Again, I would say it was quite a good finish as well. Granted, it did take a slight deflection as well to beat um Trevor Carson as well, but you can't take in the fin away from Oda as well. And it turns out it was enough to wrap up the 3 points in dramatic fashion as well.
Yeah, we even had a Shankland missed penalty that we've not even spoken about because we
Which I
kind
don't
of glossed.
want to talk about because I think that boys are going to be taking off penalties.
Do you think so? I don't know. I
Three
think
penalties
I
missed,
think
mate.
I
Come
think
on,
he'll.
like I
I
mean,
think
I believe Stephen Presley got taken off penalties after only two misses, like going like back years ago. But
yeah, we'll see. But I think to know the sort of person that Shankland is, he'll probably want to take the next one anyway. But yeah, no, back to Oda's goal. It was such a well hit effort. I know it maybe took a slight deflection or whatever, but just to even try that, and again, not to blow his trumpet too much, but it was Alan Forrest again. Just putting it out there, Alan Forrest again with a pass. Was it?
is this
Was it
going to
Alan Forrest?
be a new Andy Halliday obsession esque sort of situation? Yeah.
I mean, I cannot possibly comment on such speculation as that. But no, it was a really good pass from Alan Forrest.
There you go.
And Shankland sort of dummies over the ball, and then Oda's got it with his back to goal. And yeah, it's a really nice kind of turn and shot. Initially, I thought Carson maybe could have done better with it and maybe should have. But yeah, it was a good goal, a good finish from a player that, as you say, I think Oda he got a bit of flack after Spartans for his performance against Spartans because he was so far off it. So yeah, for him to come on and do what he did, I think that's Oda's role at the moment. I think he's one of those players that you can bring on to change a game. I'm not sure
Yeah.
he's much of a starter at the moment, but
No, no.
when you're coming up against tired legs, and you could see that Dundee were tiring at that point. They went 2-0 up, and then we just stepped on it and went at them, and you could tell that they were tired. And Oda just gets in, and it's a brilliant finish, as I say. Totally ridiculous, to be 2-0 down and come back and win 3-2. I saw something last night. It's the first time we've done that since 2002. I think it was we
You
beat
mentioned that stat,
Motherwell.
and I believe I was at that game. I can't mind if it's the right one, but I believe we went 2-0 down to Motherwell, and we ended up
Yeah,
winning 4-2. I remember that
yeah,
game because I got in such a huff at halftime. Me just like because obviously it was my first season there, and
mm,
obviously it was the season of the 5-1 Mark de Vries like sort of game.
yeah,
And I remember because it wasn't long after that game, and I said
yeah.
to my dad, I mean, like I didn't actually swear, but I went, well, what the fuck is this shit? Like like what I mean, just saying
Yeah,
like we just won 5-1. Like what is this? But yeah, I
yeah.
mind that game as well. Fabulous.
Yeah, it's crazy. Sorry, just to
No,
sort
no,
of say, obviously, we a few weeks ago, we were 2-0 down against Ross County. We come back and get a draw. I was at that game, and to do it again against Dundee, okay, we should never be in a position where we're 2 goals behind, but to have the character and the
yeah,
ability to come back and get obviously a point against Ross County and the win against Dundee. One player that we didn't even mention when we were speaking about events during the game was, well, I mentioned Benny and how flat I thought he was. He went off with an injury and was replaced by 18-year-old Macaulay Tait, who,
brilliant.
by all accounts, came on and absolutely bossed it
Mm.
at 18 years old for a midfielder to do that. And I rewatched the game earlier on today. For an 18-year-old to show what he showed, and I know obviously it's very, very early. You can't start talking about a player as if he's made it already, but his decision making and his understanding of where to be and the intelligence.
Yeah, I know.
This kid's 18 years old, and I'm looking at him going, are we sure he's 18? Like, I mean, he looks about 12,
He
but
does. Yeah,
so,
granted.
I know how that feels, so I'm not going to criticize him for that. I'm going to keep playing this up now.
Keep doing. All good.
even if nobody else does. But yeah, he came on and just looked so assured and just so composed, and I've run out of positive words for him because he did a little bit of everything, and it was so nice to see someone come in and, like, Naismith's spoken a lot about young players and the pathway for young players to play in the first team. And Macaulay Tait gets his opportunity, and yeah, he was outstanding, absolutely outstanding. A big reason why we won the game, in my opinion.
Agreed. And I think, like, because again, like, it's not to, like, start pointing fingers, but, like, I didn't think Denham had a particularly good game. I mean, that, like the midfield, by all accounts, with Noonhoff getting his goal, I don't think they particularly had a great game. I didn't think. I think the defense in general, I don't think they had a particularly good game that for first half.
Yeah,
But like as you said, to then change the shape, make the substitutions that he actually did. Obviously, Forrest, Tait, and Older all being impactful in some sense. You know, like they can't ask for much more.
no,
Which now I think takes us to 8 points clear of Kilmarnock.
yeah,
And I think, if I remember rightly, McKinley saying with the small interview that he did with Robert Borthwick not too long ago, I think we've now got more points at this point as we did last season. Like, if somebody wants to fact check that, please do. But I believe that's where we're at. And, like, like 8 points clear, getting to the end of January. Like, you I can't like be not happy about that. Like, so, but we'll probably ride that Naismith train as soon as we get beat again. Like, I get him out. But yeah, no,
yeah. Always a game away from a crisis, mate. Always a game away from a
absolutely.
crisis.
So yeah, we'll go through a bit of the headlines before we go into the final part of the podcast for the Aberdeen preview. Obviously, as we said last week, we've brought in Dexter, like a much needed right back. We have now loaned out the Govern, our third choice goalkeeper, just to get some minutes in, I assume, at Livingston, who are in dire need of signing. So hope it goes well for him. I mean, do you want to talk about the other one, Alan? Because I certainly don't. So I really certainly don't.
Yeah, yeah. We have to, and I said about this on social medias and things when it was announced. It was rumored for quite a while that Andy Halliday was going to be departing. And there were a few clubs that were sniffing around, and he has chosen to go to Motherwell on a loan for the remainder of the season. And obviously, his contract is up at the end of the
Mm.
season, so we have, I would say, with 99.999% certainty, seen the last of Andy Halliday at Hearts. And safe to say one of us was absolutely heartbroken by this news, to the point where we weren't entirely sure if the podcast was going to continue.
Yeah, I was meant to ask
um,
him, was it how you been throughout the last few weeks, mate? You been all
oh,
right,
yeah,
aye?
yeah, I've been fine. I'm over it. I'm over it.
All right,
Are
okay,
you
good,
okay?
good, good. So, what? I know, like, I mean, as we said last week, Alan, like, I mean, it made sense for both parties, like, you know what I mean,
Yeah,
like, it's like it's effectively freed up a wage, like, he wasn't getting used, like, let's be honest, I
yeah,
think whatever anybody wants to say about Andy Halliday, I know that there has been critics there that slate him, like, and like in some situations quite rightly so. I'm going to mention a particular podcast the member that that would like be like on that side of the fence, but you know I think if you're if you're going to put it down to what he did, he did the basics well. If you gave
yeah,
him a job to do, whether it be like at left back, center of the park, at some points up front, like fairly
yeah,
to him,
yeah,
he did the best that he could. Like, and I'm sure, like, we said it, like I'm sure last week it was that he'll always be remembered from that Derby game, which was again fantastic. So, and to be honest, for him to get a loan move to Motherwell as well, I think that's probably the best move he could have got. So like a fair play to him, and hope he does well. So all the best to Andy. Yes, we are on a first name basis now. So yeah, all the best to him and the govern for the rest of the season. There's also been the rumor that's just came out today as well, where there has also been a few clubs snipping around that are interested in Cochrane as well. Again, as much as we'd like the newspapers to be accurate, so I think in the link that you sent me, Alan, there's been a £2 million price tag put on to Cochrane. Again, like much like Shankland, I don't think there's any danger of him going away anywhere. I know obviously from the season before, I know he was on loan, and obviously he came from Brighton, long ways away from Edinburgh. Like, as I'm sure
Yeah.
that you'll agree. Amongst the clubs, I think there was Burnley interested. There was Ipswich apparently interested as well. So, I mean, what are your thoughts on that, Alan? Do you see Cochrane going anywhere?
It's one of those that I don't. I really like Cochrane. I think he's outstanding. I
Yeah,
think
one hundred
since he's
percent.
been at Hearts, he's been one of our better players. He does have a few holes in his game that kind of catch him out sometimes. But at 23 years old, he's not going to be the complete finished article, you know? But equally, there is a part of me, like, I know some people said, oh, 2 million's ridiculously low for a player like that. We signed him for a six-figure fee. So if you're talking 2 million to sell him, it's not bad. I
No,
know
it's not terrible.
people will probably disagree with me and say, oh, he's 5 or 6 million. And I
No,
think,
no, I'm
you know,
sorry. Like,
if you're starting to get into numbers like that, I don't agree. I think 2 million, as annoyed as I would be if we sold him, 2 million would be a decent return for
reasonable.
him.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, and I think it'll depend on what happens in that. I kind of put this in the Shanklin bracket of I don't think it happens now because I don't think the club would sanction it now,
mm,
um, unless, as I say, the offer was too good for us to say no to. Which, yeah, the thing is, you can never ever say because obviously English clubs have got money. So for us, 2 million seems like a decent fee, and it is a decent fee.
yeah,
For a club like I think Ipswich was the other one that were keen. There was Ipswich, Blackburn, and Burnley. I think with the three off the top of my head. But for them, £2 million is pocket change,
no,
especially for a team like Burnley or they're in the Premier League. So yeah, it might be one that has some legs, but if it does, it does. If it doesn't, I'll be happy either way. I think the other thing with Cochrane, if he was to go, we do have Stephen Kingsley who can play left back and is a more than capable left back.
yeah,
So whilst it would be gutting if Cochrane decided to go, um, I think this is the whole thing, and I think this is one of the reasons why Cochrane came back to Hearts was to play every week and then develop and then maybe go back down to England and play at a better level than the Brighton
maybe,
under
yeah,
23s or whatever it was. So yeah, if it's obviously I don't want him to go,
no,
and if you're asking me right now, would I sell him tomorrow? Absolutely not. But if he were to go, as long as we got the right fee for him, I'm not going to, disagree with it. But we'll see. And I mean, his contract's up next year. I think it's the end of next season,
mm,
2025. So, he might be another one that we need to get a contract in front of if we're not planning on selling him.
mm,
Um, but yeah, it's funny. Like I was talking to somebody earlier about this, and having transfer links with players leaving, as annoying as it is and as sad as it is, because you go, oh, I don't want him to leave. I don't want him to leave. He's one of my favourites. It shows that we're doing something right if
yeah,
clubs are looking at our players and saying, actually, he's quite good, take a wee stab at him. And yeah, as I say, I like Cochrane. I'm maybe not as overawed with him as some other people are. And that's fine. Everybody has their opinions on players. I don't think he's Mr. Untouchable, whereas some people do. But he's had a very, very good season so far, and I wouldn't want him to go. But again, it's nice to see that the club are basically saying this is the fee that,
Yeah.
well, reportedly saying this is the fee,
Mm.
and that's what we would accept. I saw one this morning as well, just to move on. I don't know if I sent it to you or not. Was Kenny Vargas, the journalist that broke the Kenny Vargas news that he was joining Hearts on loan this morning, posted that Hearts are very close to securing a permanent deal for Kenny Vargas, because obviously we all know there was a six-figure fee that was probably sort of loosely agreed when the clubs made the loan move. So, and Naismith had said before about, if it's an option for us to make it permanent, then it's certainly something we'll try and do. So, as I say, the journalist that broke the news that Kenny was joining on loan this morning said that a permanent deal is not far away. So that's nice to hear as
Mm.
well. Also, another quick one, Scott Fraser, the Charlton attacking midfielder, apparently was near enough done, but there seems to have been a hold up somewhere at Charlton's end. He's in Edinburgh, he's done his, bits and pieces and all that, but it's just not been announced yet because Charlton haven't signed it off. Somebody sent me a link earlier on. The Charlton manager got sacked. It was either yesterday or the day before. So that may well explain what the holdup is. Maybe the board are thinking, actually, do we want to let this guy leave? Maybe a new manager comes in and wants to use him. So there might be an element of that, but I still think that'll happen. From what Naismith said, it's a paperwork thing that's holding it up. So hopefully that gets done sooner rather than later. Another attacking midfielder to replace the gap that was left by Alex Lowry going back to Rangers. So yeah, it seems as if like January has been relatively quiet overall, but as is the way, it tends to get a little bit busier the longer the window goes and the closer you get to the end of it.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, I think I don't like. I'll be honest. I don't know much about Scott Fraser, but from what I've like read and from what I've looked up as well, seems like a decent addition to the squad for the remainder of the season. So if he can help us in any way, then I'm all for it. So yeah, I think that's all the headlines thus far. As we go into the last week of January. Also, for the last bit of the podcast, we'll obviously do a wee preview with Aberdeen at home. How you thinking, Alan? Like, I mean, again, I'd like there to be a point where we can say that this is not a big game, but fucking every week is a fucking big game. But with 8 points in front, like at this stage, obviously not taking anything for granted, but 8 points, it's a decent gap. Tell that to Robbie Nielsen, but 8 points in front. You know, as I said at the start, at the end of January, I'm beaten in 6 or 7 games. Are you fairly confident, Alan? Like, especially with them with the Aberdeen's form at the moment as well.
Yeah, yeah. Aberdeen's form just now, and also Aberdeen's form at Tynecastle. And as much as we don't win at Pittodrie, they don't win at Tynecastle either. So it's odd. It's one of those games that just the home side is usually the banker to get the result. Maybe that's a kiss of death that I'm giving it there.
Yeah,
But
probably.
tonight, as we record this, it's Wednesday, and Aberdeen are playing away against St Johnstone. I think it's 48 kickoff like ours was last night. Aberdeen do have a few games in hand on us as well. But if they don't get a result against St Johnstone tonight and then we beat them on the weekend, we could have a 20-point gap over Aberdeen, which I'm not saying it rules them out of the race for third place, but it would take a hell
Come
of a
on, it
turnaround for
really
them to
does.
get.
It
Yeah,
really
it would
does.
it would take a hell of a turnaround for them to
Yeah.
get back into it. I think obviously everybody knows Aberdeen's main threats are the likes of Majowski. He's very good. Someone that Rangers should definitely be looking at. Yeah, maybe just leave our number 9 alone and go after Aberdeen's man,
It's
perhaps.
not happening, mate. It's not
No,
happening
nah, no.
because they've already agreed on a 4.5 million deal for some.
Yeah,
But so
I don't
aye,
think. Yeah, I don't think it'll happen. I don't think they'll go after Majowski either. I'm obviously joking on that one. But yeah, Aberdeen, it's a strange one because they've had a poor season by their standards, and But they, like I say, they do have a lot of games in hand, so there is the possibility that they win those and they're right back up there with us, battling for third place. But that's why Saturday is as big a game as it is. You know, if we can get a result, it's a turning point for us, and probably, you know, well, we're currently closer to Rangers in second than we are in Kilmarnock in fourth. So I'm not saying for 1 minute we're going to catch Rangers. That's pie in the sky thinking, but to try and open up a decent gap between ourselves and fourth is what you want to do. And hopefully it's what we can do. As I say, Aberdeen's form at Tynecastle is almost as bad as our form at Pittodrie.
Mm.
So yeah, I don't know. There's a few questions to kind of put out there that I'm not entirely sure, and maybe somebody can give us their thoughts. But there was obviously a lot of talk after the Spartans game about who plays against Dundee in terms of in goal. Do you keep Gordon in, or do you go back to Xander Clark? Obviously, we saw Xander Clark played against Dundee. I wonder what happens with Aberdeen. You know, Xander Clark conceded 2 goals against Dundee. One of them he probably could have done better with. I know the McGee strike was good, but I don't know if it's just me being the romantic that I am, but I have a feeling that Gordon maybe at least gets a hand to that one.
No,
I'm not
possibly,
sure
yeah.
what you not sure what you think, but yeah, there's something about it. I'm not quite sure, but I do think Xander Clark will start against Aberdeen. Has Macaulay Tait done enough to get a start against Aberdeen?
Nah.
I think so. To be
I
honest
think
with you,
really. See, like I thought he
yeah,
did well, but again, I think the way that we've been using Denim in terms of in terms of like bringing him on
yeah,
and the games where you don't expect him to start, I mean, you can't base one good half an hour and then from my point of view, anyway, I think if we were to use him in a way like we did last night, personally, I think that's probably the right way to go as well. Because you see, you saw it yourself.
yeah,
Denham has had a good start, but starting last night, I thought I didn't think he did particularly well. Obviously, that game
no,
will build up Tate's confidence, but me personally, I don't.
yeah,
I think there's more experience in there, and I think for Tate, there's obviously still a lot to learn as well. But I mean, stranger things have happened. Like if you froze him in, then it'll be a case of all right, okay, let's see what you've actually got. So either
yeah.
way, it's not a bad thing.
I just think that, you know, he's a kid that did very, very well and made a good impression. And Naismith was singing his praises after the game about how much he did in the game against Dundee.
Hmm.
And I think like Benny went off, and I think they said he had a little knock, which doesn't really surprise me. But then you never know. They might have just taken him off because he wasn't playing particularly well. He did go down with an injury and get taken off, but it didn't look too bad. But yeah, the midfield, certainly to end the game against Dundee, the midfield looked a lot more balanced with Tate in it. And I know, like you say, he's 18 years old. There's you know, you can't be pinning your hopes on an 18-year-old, but I think momentum and confidence is a big thing, and he'll be buzzing right now.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see Macaulay Tate start, but I know where you're coming from, and I can agree to an extent. But if I'm picking the team, I'm putting Tate in, just purely because I think he'll be very, very confident and certainly wanting to continue to, you know, take the chances that he gets.
Fair.
But it'll also depend on what the system is. You know, again, I spoke earlier about the back three at Tynecastle not being my favourite thing at the moment. I just don't think we've got the balance for it at this moment. I don't know if it's just because Kai Rolls isn't in the defence. There's something that I just don't quite like about it right now. Um, so yeah, and like we said, there's no secret that we played well against Dundee in the second half with the back four. So do we start with the back four against Aberdeen? It's possible. I think the biggest takeaway I have is that, you know, we have to start better against Aberdeen than we did against Spartans and we did against Dundee. You know, we've not been good in first halves of games this season. I saw a stat earlier on. I think I sent it to you. That we've only scored something like 2 goals in the first half at home this season, or something along the lines of that. I think it was,
Hmm.
yeah, it was Anthony Brown he put on Twitter. It was scored just 2 first half goals in 11 league matches, as opposed to 12 second half goals. So, you know, if we can start games better and have better first halves at Tynecastle and not leave it to the second half, that would be a good place to build.
Absolutely.
But yeah, we can't afford a start like we did against Dundee, because Aberdeen, as much as they're not in the best of form, they've got quality players on their day that could punish us. And yeah, like I say, we can give a 2-goal lead to Ross County, we can give a 2-goal lead to Dundee, but I don't think we could get away with that against Aberdeen.
Probably not, sir. I do agree on that. And just to wrap things off, sir, can I have a prediction for this game as well?
I will go for my usual tried and tested, my old faithful 2-1 Hearts.
That's fair enough. I think I'm going to go for a bit of I think I'm actually going to go for a 1-0 win. To be honest, I don't think there will be much goals in it. Like I don't think like for as much as Aberdeen have not had a fantastic season. I think obviously I'm um going to say that Hearts have a better squad, but in terms of these games, they tend to be quite evenly balanced, if that makes sense. Like the two
Yeah.
squads in terms of like as I said, I think we have the better squad, but if you're going to put it man to man as well, I think surprisingly, I think the squads are even in some areas of the park, but I think it's going to be a closer one than we all think. Hence the 1-0 prediction. But as always, we will see what happens at the weekend. And on that note, that comes to the end of the podcast. So as always, guys, thank you very much for watching. And as always, if you haven't subscribed yet, please think about subscribing. And if you want to get in contact with us of your thoughts of the topics that we've talked about, please feel free to get in contact as well in the description as usual. And we will see you in the next one. So to all the fans that go in to the game on Saturday, we do hope you have a good one, and we will see you in the next one. Y'all take care. Bye for now.